2,027 children received misdiagnoses for genetic tests on autism, leading to a net cost of $66.1 million. 427 of these families were unaware of the false diagnosis for 4 years before learning the truth. These occurrences are becoming more and more common as genetic tests are used to predict health risks. Yet, insurance companies are pushing to have access to these results to influence their rates, begging the question as to whether these insurance customers should be required to share this information with their insurance providers.
Inaccuracy is one of the main problems with these genetic tests, with numerous cases that are similar to this one. Can you imagine what were to happen if insurance companies were able to adjust their prices on the basis of these inaccurate tests? Many insurance companies are trying to push towards that today. Healthcare specialist Kyle Pulkett is here to speak more on this topic.
More and more information is coming out in regards to the inaccuracy of these tests. In a study conducted by New England Journal of Medicine, 172,000 genetic tests were analyzed by more than one lab. Out of the 172,000 genetic tests, 17% of these tests were interpreted differently from each lab. Michael Watson, executive director of the American College of Medicine, had to say this: "The magnitude of the problem is bigger than we thought. Insurance provider and consumer are often unaware of the validity of the claims made by each of the testing providers, as a lack of oversight leads to less need for support of the claims. As testing companies compete for the best rates to gain more customers, accuracy decreases further with less incentive to seek approval on their testing techniques, more motivation to follow procedures that will validate their tests without necessarily providing accurate results. In my opinion, insurance providers should not rely on tests with such little regulation and unproven conclusions. Relying on these tests would lead to many customers paying extra for protection against diseases they may never have."
Thank you, Kyle. That was a very interesting perspective, as many supporters of sharing these tests claim that keeping them private from insurance companies leads to an imbalance of power between customer and insurance provider. I guess with such uncertainty, however, there isn't much of a discrepancy in their playing fields, as both parties are making decisions off of chance prediction.
And don't forget, we haven't even gotten to the dangerous economic implications. With the pricing of tests ranging from hundreds of dollars to thousands, testing would put an extra burden on low-income households, who could potentially already be struggling to make ends meet. Imagine having to pay for these tests only to learn that you'll have to pay higher premiums for your health insurance. Devastating, right? We are then brought to the issue of ethics, a very complicated and complex dilemma. The thought arises on whether you should have the right to know or have the right not to know your genetic conditions. For instance, you could be told that you have cancer so that you might be able to go get treatment and further your life. But on the other hand, you might not want to know that you have cancer so that you can continue to live your day-to-day life. Deep stuff, right?
So what we have learned is that genetic testing could have beneficial impacts, but are not yet reliable enough for insurance companies to make decisions based off of the information provided without unfair detrimental impacts on their insurance customers. Thank you for joining us on Goodnight Georgia Tech. Tune in next week for coverage on Georgia Tech football's team's triumphant victory over UGA.